there's that great Pokemon movie I've been waiting for. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Animation Station, your number one stop destination for anything and everything animation. And finally, after 5 days, after 5 straight films of either decent, average, or awful, we finally have a great one. Zoroark Master of Illusions is a great film for a number of reasons, and I'm going to break down every single one. So, buckle up, this one's probably going to be a bit longer than usual, because I have a lot to say. So let's start with the plot synopsis. So the plot synopsis reads as follows. I'm reading this off of IMDb, by the way. Apologies if it's inaccurate. A greedy, manipulative media mogul seeks to capture Celebi for nefarious purposes using the shape-shifting Pokemon Zoroark to hunt it down. And meanwhile, there's also Zora trying to get back to Zoroark, as it turns out the two of them have a bond. A very interesting bond, as a matter of fact, where they're not mother and son, but they're kind of like that. Like, Zoroark is Zora's protector, and the two of them have a familial bond, so yeah, it's quite interesting. Not to mention Celebi's back after so many years of being left out, because for some reason I'm one of those only people that actually likes Pokemon forever. And Celebi is also much more pivotal to the plot this time, which is nice, even though he was also quite pivotal in Forever, but I feel like they did it better here. Not to mention, another big positive of this movie right off the bat, especially coming off of the god-awful Jewel of Life, the writing is much, much better. Like, it's much better. It's not overly complicated, it's not filled with plot holes, it's well-written, funny at times, and makes perfectly good sense. Like, I know, that sounds like a stupid thing to praise the Pokemon movie for, but again, after how awful the writing was in Arceus and the Jewel of Life, this was a much-needed breath of fresh air. I also like Zoroark as a Pokemon. I love his design with the... well, sorry, her design. It's a she. Apologies. With the gray and the black and the red. Like, it's so cool. It's such a cool design. And of course, we have Ash and the gang here again. Fortunately, Brock is still completely pointless to the overall story, but you know what? It's fine. Minor nitpick. I'll get to that later. I think Crown City is also a really cool setting for this movie, because it has a lot of unique architecture that really gives itself well to, you know, setting up battles with Pokemon and having Zoroark run across rooftops like he's freaking Naruto, which is interesting. And then there's the villain. What was his name again? Sorry. Grings Kodai, the guy who pretty much owns the entire media of Crown City, a big media company of Crown City. And it turns out he's evil, because of course he is. And he's using the media to manipulate people out of Crown City so he can hunt down Celebi, because apparently there's this time portal thing that ends up giving him extra power and allows him to see the future, which is interesting. But the real interesting thing I want to talk about is that he's voiced by Sean Schemmel. Yes, that's Sean Schemmel. Goku Sean Schemmel. Lucario Sean Schemmel. And it's him at his most evil and maniacal. Now, granted, this isn't his first time playing a villain. I mean, a few I can name right off the bat. He voiced the villain in Yu-Gi-Oh! Bonds Beyond Time. Of course, he voices the English dub of Goku Black in Dragon Ball Super. And I'm pretty sure he played another Pokemon villain a while back. I think he was the voice of the Ironmonger in Forever, I think. Again, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but yeah, this is definitely not Sean Schemmel's first time voicing a villain, but he does great here. Now, granted, I don't think he does as great as he is as Lucario, but it's still a great performance here, and he definitely makes him so over-the-top evil that it's fascinating. Now, granted, yes, the character himself is very cliche, and his design's a bit strange with the purple hair with the little yellow section and bright yellow eyes. Like, that is a weird design, I'm going to admit. But it really is Sean Schemmel that really makes this character fascinating. Not to mention, this character, when I say over-the-top evil, he is over-the-top evil. Like, there were multiple times where he tries to outright kill some of the Pokemon that get in his way, including a pretty disturbing scene where he tries to strangle Celebi. Yeah, this movie's somehow even darker than Rise of Darkrai. Like, that's sad. But I feel like here it's much more well executed because you're supposed to hate him. And again, Sean Schemmel does a lot of the heavy lifting here with his voice. Heck, in one scene, when we see the flashback of him actually absorbing this time portal, we hear him do the laugh that would later become synonymous with Goku Black. So, yeah, and there's also more than a few times throughout his performance, specifically in the final act, where he does slip a bit into his Goku voice. Like, you hear that inflection, you hear that tone. Like, it's not bad or anything, it's just something worth pointing out. And that's kind of what got me fascinated by him. Like, when we got to the time rift scene and I heard that laugh, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I've heard this one before. And then I look it up, oh yeah, it's Sean Schemmel. I know why, that's the Goku Black laugh. Like, yeah, pretty interesting. Like I said, I'm pretty sure this isn't the first time Sean Schemmel has voiced a villain in a Pokemon movie, but I feel like this is one of his better ones. Now, granted, if it was anyone other than Sean Schemmel, it probably wouldn't be as memorable, but Sean really does make this villain incredibly intimidating and very, very scary. Like, in the best way possible, too. The story is a lot better here, and I know a lot of people say Zora is an unlikable turd, but unlike Shaman, who just angered and infuriated and irritated me to my very core, Zora is that kind of character that is very cocky, that does like to, play tricks, but he is still a well-developed character, and you can tell he's still... He means well. He's just trying to have fun while also trying to reunite with his Mima, as he calls Zoroark throughout the movie. Again, also, because the writing's a lot stronger here, I actually cared. Like, that's another big plus of the movie. And another big plus of this movie is that, unlike the past 3 films, I feel like this is the best dub of all the Sinnoh movies, because the one in Darkrai was bad, the one in Giratina was fine, and then the one in Arceus was just outright awful. But here, I feel like the dub was handled much better. Now, I can also see why some people would probably get annoyed at this movie because of Zoroark's constant howling and shouting while she's trying to break out of her prison, but it didn't really bother me that much. So I don't really know why people get so mad about that. Not to mention, I've looked at comment sections of reviews of this movie, and they seem to all be pretty positive, while some other critical people like Ilnej are more negative to on the fence. Me personally, I'm very positive. I really liked this one, and I'm just glad I finally found a good Pokemon movie again, because boy, did we start out rough, but we found something great here. I really enjoyed Zoroark. I think it's a great film, and I definitely think that it is more than well worth your time. Okay, so what's wrong with this movie? Well, just a handful of little things. They're mainly just a bunch of nitpicks. First of all, as I stated before, Brock is entirely pointless to the story. Like, he's there just to be there because he's part of Ash's current entourage. Like, he doesn't really get to do much. Even Dawn does a bit more than Brock does. Now, granted, Brock does get to do a little more than usual, but if you cut him out of the story, it wouldn't really change that much. And then there's Team Rocket, who literally has no purpose being here outside of comic relief. Like, literally no purpose. You could cut Team Rocket's scenes out of the movie, and not only would you probably shave off a good 10-15 minutes of your runtime, but it also helped the movie have a much better pace. Because, yeah, this movie can be a bit slow, but, I mean, it makes sense to have a slow pace for this kind of film, but I don't know, sometimes it can be just a tad bit too slow. And like I said, if you cut out the Team Rocket scenes, you probably have a much better film. And I can also understand one other criticism that I'm more mixed on than actually negative, but it's something worth pointing out. How the legendaries they pick to bring back for this movie are all from the Johto films. With Suicune, Entei, Celebi, and what was the other one's name? Sorry, the lightning one. I forget its name. I can understand that being a bit of a criticism, but I kind of feel like that's one of the reasons why I liked this movie a lot more than the other Sinnoh movies, because I really like the Johto region Pokemon, and I definitely quite enjoyed the Johto region Pokemon films, to an extent, but yeah. I can understand that criticism, because usually with a new Pokemon movie, you want to see, well, new Pokemon. So, I can understand that criticism. Me personally, it didn't really bother me that much, but I can kind of understand it a little bit. So, yeah, that's really all I have. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I straight up love this one, and while it's probably not going to be among like my top 10 favorite movies in the franchise, and it's nowhere near the masterpiece quality of something like Lucario and the Mystery of Mew, Zoroark is still a dang good Pokemon movie that is more than worth your time if you haven't seen it. My final verdict for Zoroark Master of Illusions is a high 8 out of 10. This is a great film that I had a great time watching, and it's a great send-off to what is by far probably the roughest era of this franchise that I've had to go through thus far. Because, man, the Sinnoh movies were rough. But, you know what? We ended on a great one, so, you know what? It is what it is. Okay. So, what's next? Well, we got the Super Mario movie, of course. And then we're gonna go right into Pokemon Black, which I believe Black comes first before White, if I'm not mistaken. Let me check my binder. Yeah. Black, Victini, and the Zekrom. So, yeah. Pokemon Black's next, after we do the Super Mario movie, but until then, thanks for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time for the next review. Peace.